Hello everybody and welcome back once again to Nerdly Presents the Romford Film Festival podcast. And again, we are still on the road to Romford HORRHIFFIC 2025. The Horror Fest is incoming 27th of February through to the 2nd of March. We have got 161 movies spread across 7 different screens over 4 days. That is hours and hours and oodles of movies, short features, everything that you can possibly think of to take in and love and enjoy. And believe me, we have carefully curated this entire selection of movies. It's taken us months to do so. This episode is episode 4, and I'm calling this one the Friday the 28th Double Bill. Because guess what? I am talking to 2 directors about 2 features that are showing back-to-back on Friday the 28th. First up, I'll be talking to director Dan Gould, who is the director of a low-budget, they're all low-budget independent features that we're showing, but a quite really low-budget movie that this kid spent 3 years making, started when he was 21, finished when he's 24, he's now 26, the movie's out there, the movie's called Interlopers. He's coming on to tell us about this movie, how he got it made, and why we should check it out. I'll be following that up with a director with Jamie David Langlands, a director who has been an actor in over 100 features, shorts, all sorts. He has got over 100 credits to his name, but now he's striking out on his own as a director, and he's bringing us his first feature film, first one that he's directed. This movie is called The Cellar, and I have to say, for somebody coming out the gates for their first movie after having acted for so long, he had all the right things in all the right places to bring us all the right movie. That is The Cellar. Both these movies are showing on Friday the 28th. It's a little bit of a double bill, and that to me is a perfect mixture for a double bill, double feature episode, so that's why I put these 2 together. See, I don't do any of this by accident. Now, when the festival starts on 27th of February, we will be opening the doors to the Lumiere. That's right, no longer the Premiere. The Premiere Cinemas was closed back in August or October, or back last year anyway, and Spencer and the gang put together the Romford Film Trust. You'll have heard of this, you'll have seen it all over, you've seen me talk about it on these episodes. They put this together and they're going to reopen the cinema under Lumiere. It's going to have screens for the newest movies out on the town. It's going to have screens for independent movies that you may not get a chance to see, world cinema that you may not get a chance to see. They're going to have rooms for like podcasting and vodcasting and all that kind of thing somewhere. That's going to be awesome. So anybody who is creatively out there, but not necessarily a filmmaker, but creatively out there and wants to start their own channel, kind of like what I do, you're going to have a space to do that, and it's going to be absolutely awesome. They're going to have a screen that's going to have stages so they can have stand-up and all that kind of thing. Basically, it's going to be this whole community thing where you can go and do a lot more than just go and watch a movie. You could not find a better cinema, a better hub to be a part of, and you can be part of it. Because, yes, they want to do all these things, but they need to raise a little bit of money. They've already raised a chunk of change, about 20k on the crowdfunder, and then about another 20k in the background. So that's like 40k that they've got already, but they need to keep making a little bit more so that, yes, the doors will be open, but we need to update screens, we need to update the foyer, update this, update that. It's going to be awesome, and it's going to be for you. So go over to crowdfunder.co.uk, check it out over there. It'll tell you a lot more than I can tell you, to be perfectly honest. I don't know the ins and outs of everything. I'm just trying to get you to go and have a look, because that is the least we can ask, is that you at least have a look. If you can spare £1, £2, £3, £5, happy days. We thoroughly appreciate that, and we think you're awesome. If you can't, if money is a little bit tight, that's totally fine. Just share it around your social medias. Or even if you're out having a coffee with a friend and you're like, you know what? You like films, you like cinema, I think you should check this out. They might check it out. They might have spare cash. Bosh. There you go. A little bit more money, a little bit of an injection. That's the main thing, is we need people to know who we are, what we're doing. We need the presence. We need to be out there. Please do go over crowdfunder.co.uk, check out Lumiere Cinemas or Spencer Hawken or Romford Film Trust, and you will find it. All sorts of perks, all sorts of everything like that. But that's me done with that a little bit. Please do stick around, watch both of these interviews. Again, Dan Gould, young director for the feature film Interlopers, and Jamie David Langlands, the director of the movie The Cellar. Both movies, fantastic movies, showing as a double feature on Friday the 28th. You're going to have a sore bum sitting watching both of these films, but you're going to love both of these films, and that's why I wanted to put them both together. I don't do this by accident. Trust me, there's a process to it. You need to trust that process. I am getting pretty damn good at this. But yes, let's get into these interviews, and I'll see you on the next episode. 27th of February through to the 2nd of March. We're going to be showing some awesome features, 161 shorts and features across 7 screens over 4 days. My God, we've got some dose of content for you guys out there. But today I'm talking to director Dan Gould of a movie called Interlopers, which we're going to be showing on Friday the 28th on screen 1 at 3 p.m. And we really want you to check it out. So we thought, why not get Dan on to talk about his movie. So first of all, Dan, how are you this fine day?
I'm not too bad, sir. I'm not too bad. It's a pretty sort of average overcast day here in Manchester, but that's about the best you can expect at this time of the year.
Especially in Manchester. I do joke, yeah. The first thing I like to do is, this is the first time I'm talking to you. This may be the first time that anybody is seeing you on our channel, the first time that people are really getting to know who you are. So the first question I like to ask is a nice simple question, is what got you into filmmaking and why would you do it?
Oh, well, I think way back in the day, it came from, I used to, as a kid, I loved to read, always wanted to be a writer. And then during my adolescent years, got more into movies and video games, and then when it came to pursuing further education, I was like, oh, Mum, I'd like to be a writer. And she's like, but you don't read any books. I'm like, okay, fair enough. So film seemed like the next best thing. And so, yeah, I come from film from a perspective of wanting to tell my own stories. And usually, at least at this level, the easiest way to tell my own stories is to make them myself, as opposed to trying to go through anybody else.
I like that. The direct approach. And was there any movie project or anything out there as you were kind of coming up that truly inspired you to think that, you know what, if this guy can do it, I can do it too?
So there's a few. Of course, for reference, Interlopers was primarily, I did most of the work on this film, and so folks like Christopher Nolan's first film, Robert Rodriguez's first film, where basically they really have so few resources that they have to wear multiple hats. Those two projects were particularly inspirational because they just showed that it can be done. And I hope that's, when somebody looks at Interlopers, they get kind of a similar feeling that, oh, I may not have much, but this is proof that it can be done.
Absolutely, and obviously writer, director, editor, producer, you're doing a little bit of everything. You're wearing many different caps. What is, you mentioned about wanting to tell your own stories, but what's been your favorite aspect of making this movie?
I think ultimately my favorite aspect of working on a project like this is, despite the fact that, I'm wearing a lot of hats, I'm doing a lot of stuff myself, it is the great people you get to meet on a project like this. One of the most amazing things about film is that it is inherently a social art form. You're going to be, colliding into people with opposing worldviews and different outlooks on life, and you really, really grow as a person. There's a quote from Paul Thomas Anderson where he says, every time he makes a film, he learns something new about himself. And I feel like from a spiritual perspective, it is this constant journey of making discovery, And so I'd say that's definitely the most rewarding part about making a film for me, personally.
3 years in the making, I believe. This started off as filmed over 3 years, 3 separate shorts, all kind of made into one big grand feature. Where did the initial idea for Interlopers come from? What was the initial seed? And you were like, right, this is the story I'm going to tell. This is what I want to make for the next 3 years. I don't know how you have the patience, by the way, because I would have given up on this.
Honestly. It was one thing that we guess we kind of had this to our advantage, I suppose. It was originally only supposed to take a year, and then
Yeah.
then COVID kind of shuts people down for like 7 or 8 months, and then at these very formative years, you're looking for your first job, going through a master's course. I went for a master's course, and so there's a lot of like other plates you're spinning while keeping this thing afloat. The original idea came from a conversation with a few friends, in which one of them kind of talked about this idea of talking zombies. This idea that what if this usually kind of dehumanized element, or I say usually, but often dehumanized element of these films, what if there was a bit more nuance to them, and there was something a little bit just uncomfortably human about them. And that was where it began. And then the way this film is structured was kind of built by the fact that we had so few resources. It's 3 separate productions, all put together like an anthology film, but with a running narrative through it. And this came from the fact that, well, we can't pay our cast, so we don't want to bring them into an enormous, like, standard issue feature where they're going to have to give up 30 days of their time. No actor on this film did more than 10 days. It was really down to this idea that, anyone who's working on this, they shouldn't have to give up anything to do it because we can't pay them,
Yeah.
This notion that it was basically goodwill, come in for a bit, have a good time, do your bit, and then, just continue with your life, and this won't leave an enormous impact. And alongside that, on the off chance that we were shut down over those 3 years, if we got maybe 1 or 2 parts done, but we couldn't get the 3rd part done, because they're relatively self-contained narratives, we still have something we can put out there. So it was really... the way this film is, its form, was entirely built by its limitations, which I think led to something pretty unique.
And with that, when you're approaching people to join you on this journey, and I have to say, a big part of low budget filmmaking as well can be like, if you have the right people in the right places and the right cast, they can really kind of elevate the project and make it like not necessarily cover over cracks, but it sort of like shows that, we may not have the budget, but look what we can actually do. So how did you
100%.
approach your cast for this movie? Because I think you've casted superbly well for this movie, and everyone in it is putting in a fantastic performance. So how did you approach these people to come on board with you?
So on a couple of short films, our usual plan of action is, once again, you're working with what you've got. We've got a great we've got a great bunch of actors up here in Manchester, and how we basically cast the film was, our original collaborators. One of the members runs a theatre company, and through that theatre company, that was how we got access to actors who have mostly had experience in theatre as opposed to film. So you've got actors who are very, very good at giving strong performances. And then from there, it was the name of the game was basically taking these great character actors and building roles to their strengths. We did this on a short film previously, where, even if it's not necessarily the original vision, collaboration is adaptation. So you're really trying to make the best product that you can that kind of at least harks back to that original vision, So it was all about finding out where everybody's strengths are and then maximizing those elements in the final product.
So what is the story of Interlopers? Obviously, I can go and watch it and I can get what I get from it, but what is the story of Interlopers to you when you were writing this? What was it to you? What did it mean to you?
It's interesting because, like I say, it was a process of discovery. I knew what I wanted in the film, but at the time of writing, I didn't know why I wanted it. I just felt it. And so through making the film, I have a much better idea of what the original intention was. But to this day, it's like there's a great quote from Alexander Payne, which is, if I could put it into words, I wouldn't have made the film. And I think that does reign true to some degree. I think it's more a feeling than it is necessarily a mission statement. But I would say that there's, I like to think that there is to some degree a commentary on the way things currently are. One thing I wanted to explore in particular was how, when the culture changes, morality changes, and all this stuff like history is told by the winners and stuff like that. I wanted to create a selection of characters who, through the world simply changing around them, could change them from bad guy to good guy and good guy to bad guy. And I really wanted to play with how the audience could kind of moralize who they should support and how this might change across the course of the film, across the course of time. And yeah, there's a really big bundle of ideas that went into this thing. And I'm hoping that it kind of takes the form of a toy box where anyone who watches the film can kind of look into it and take the bits that they find interesting. I wouldn't say that there was necessarily an inherent mission statement. It was more just like, just trying to, I guess, express the abstract and do it through genre, like, the zombie genre.
And talking a little bit about the zombie genre, that makes me want to talk a little bit about your cinematographer as well, because there is one shot in this movie. I mean, there's a lot of really glorious shots in this movie. There's the one that it feeds back to sort of like 28 days later when you're running through the field. How do you make a shot like that look as epic as it does on the kind of budget you're working with? Because it was really impressive. It looked fantastic. What was the secret to you and your cinematographer making this moment just slap the way it did?
So that sequence, of course, heavily inspired by the opening sequence of 28 Weeks Later. I think it's all about, where they have that, back then it was a helicopter shot that they had going over this field. To make it as epic as it was, or to make it as large scale as it was on such a small scale, probably a big part of it comes down to the actual sequence length. That sequence is only about 30 seconds. It's more about showing the audience enough to the point where the experience they take away from it is more epic than the actual. It's more than the sum of its parts. The audience's imagination is running wild. You show them just enough to get the gears going, so then they can kind of, imagine the scope themselves, while we're just kind of, we move on and we let that sit with the audience. There's a few things happening there. I think the pace, keeping it fast, is very, very important. Keeping the energy high. Don't really, you don't necessarily want to let the audience focus for too long. The moment they can focus for too long is the moment that they can start to see the cracks. So it makes it's like a really loud bang that is gone in a second, and you're kind of just left, your ears are ringing, but the bang has stopped, I guess.
And with that, getting creative on the budget you have and making something that looks as great as that does. Were there any other moments that you kind of personally thought, this is how we want to do it, but actually we're a little bit restricted, so we're going to do it like a little bit more creatively? Are there any other moments that stand out to you that you're super proud that actually that looks amazing compared to we couldn't do quite what we wanted to, but it actually looks better than it was gonna? Was there any other moments that stood out?
So I think the in the part 2 section, I think that final climactic sequence where basically they're holed up in this little parlor and everything's coming around them. I think we did a good job at ramping up the tension there, given how little resources we had. I don't think it feels super cheap or perhaps super unwarranted in the amount of emphasis it's given within the film. I would say at large, most of the film was compromises like these. And one advantage I had was obviously being the writer-director, I can basically amend the script whenever I need to when it comes to maybe 2 months out of production and we're already seeing on a budget that we're not going to be able to do certain things, I can be like, oh no, it's all right. I can rewrite it in a way that the reason it's so limited is for the service of the plot, as opposed to the actual, just like instead of trying to do it cheaply, we'll just rewrite it to be more compelling on a lower budget, basically. And so that was the immediate approach to getting around a lot of these issues, because obviously the original script was more ambitious. And then it's just, when you go into production, you realize you can't do stuff, and you can either brave the storm and just try and do it as cheaply as possible, or you can rewrite it and find a more impactful angle to do it on a lower budget.
I love that. I love that, and that shows a lot about your character as a director and as a person. Because I'm sure a lot of people out there, once it's written, that's it. It's set in stone. We're not deviating. So to be able to and that's something that I've seen Robert Rodriguez, as you mentioned before. He's mentioned that a lot in his 1 minute film school kind of things about learning on the fly, and so it's a fantastic trait to have. What would you say is, you mentioned before about learning on the job and self-discovery and everything like that? It's a journey. What would you say is the biggest thing that you've actually learned about yourself while making this movie?
So the biggest thing I've learned about it is I finally, you get a very clear vision of yourself under pressure, under stress. You have an idea of, depending on the environment will basically determine who you are. And so in stressful environments, I now have a pretty good perspective on the kind of person I become. And, just in terms of pitfalls and stuff like that, what you should probably avoid when you're in moments of stress, and how can you find those moments to, meditate and take it easy and stuff like that? Because it can be very stressful, and it can be, full of sleepless nights and full of existential dread, especially with this film, because this was the first feature not only I had made, but anyone in my group or, friendship group, anyone, all my peers. It's the first one that had ever been made. So it was this idea of, is it even possible? And so you end up living with a bit of a shadow over you, and that can really congeal over years and years. Because obviously, it was about 2.5 years to 3 years. And just over that time, you've got so much uncertainty that this project that kind of defines your life at this point, the biggest thing that you've done, is it even going to pay off? And so it's really all about, the biggest discovery I made was just kind of, what kind of person do I become, I guess, when the chips are down? And, through that, for the best, how can I manage that kind of person when going into those situations again?
And the movie, your movie Interlopers, has been going around festivals. We're going to be showing it at the Romford Horror Festival, obviously. But you've been getting some really, really cracking feedback as well, from what I've seen. How has that been? How has that been, personally? Is that because you got this movie out there, you got it made, and now people are really taking to it as well. So how does that feel for you?
I think one thing that's really reassuring is when you see that your movie has a niche, and you can start to build up a profile of the kind of person that enjoys this content. That is so vindicating, that when, because a lot of people don't get this movie. A lot of people really, really don't get it. But then a lot of people really resonate with this film. I feel like it's kind of a Marmite film. And it's just nice to know that, some of your artistic expression is landing with people. Because for the longest time when I made my films, when I tried to make them as true to myself, a lot of people around me wouldn't get them, or at least not necessarily wouldn't get them, but it didn't resonate with them. What I was doing didn't affect them. And so being able to put this film out into the wider world and see that there are, a couple of, interested outsiders who watch this thing and can really feel something, that means the world to me. That means the world. And it's enough encouragement to keep at it and just creating more art.
And with that, are you looking to expand on Interlopers at all? Are you looking to do something adjacent to it, or are you moving on to a completely different project?
So currently, Romford is the final festival in Interlopers festival run.
Nice.
So from here, we'll be looking at distribution options. In regards to the world of Interlopers, I do have maybe we'll see how this pans out, but I do have a couple of short stories in the works, just kind of expanding on the world and maybe serving as a companion piece to the themes and ideas of the movie. But alongside that, I can't say too much at the minute, but my second project has started, and
Excellent.
hopefully within the next 1 or 2 years, we'll have something to show.
And with that, obviously, I mentioned before about the movie going to festivals, and you've had people seeing it and giving you feedback on it. Is there anyone? Now, this is a bit of a wish fulfillment. You mentioned a couple of directors at the start of this interview, like your Robert Rodriguez, your Paul Thomas Anderson, people like that. If you could choose any director out there that you look up to show Interlopers to, and they were to give you feedback, who would you choose and why?
It's a very, very interesting question. It's now I think I know. Obviously, this film was took a lot of inspiration from 28 Days Later, and as I know, Danny Boyle was for the longest time, Manchester-based filmmaker who kind of started in low-budget roots. I think I'd love to know what he thinks of this film.
Excellent.
And Danny Boyle has been a big inspiration over the many years that I've known his films.
Well, let's try and get it in front of him, and let's get some feedback from the man. So you're still a relatively young lad, which is one of the things that I said to some of the other judges and some of the other selectors when we were talking about Interlopers was how impressed I was. You started this movie when you were 21. It's taken you 3 years to get it made. You're now 24. Is there any kind of advice that you would give to another person your kind of age coming up into it and wanting to make movies? Is there any kind of advice that you've kind of learned or picked up along the way that you would give them?
I should say for reference, just as clarification, the film's finished when I was 24. It's had a year in festivals. I've turned 26, just to let you know, just for full disclosure.
26. Oh, well, I'm taking all that back.
But no, the film was finished when I was 24.
Yeah, no, definitely.
But in terms of advice, I think the most important thing I could say to young folk is, for us, it was a case of there was no more time we could wait. You can't wait on an opportunity. You kind of have to make it. There's no other way that people will pay attention to you unless you already know people in the industry or something like that. And for reference, when it comes to making it and stuff like that, that shouldn't really be the point. It's more about doing it because you enjoy it and making cool stuff and learning about yourself. And I think, no matter what it is, they always say, make a film on your phone or something like this. But the fact of the matter is, there's no better time than today to just start making stuff, writing stuff, making music, making art, anything, You just got to do it, because at the end of the day, the more you do it, the more that anxiety and those feelings of doubt fade away, and it kind of just becomes its own reward.
I'm going to wrap this out roundabout now, but first of all, let people know where they can. You're looking for distribution once this is going to be the last festival again on the 28th of February. Come to Romford, Screen 1 at 3 p.m. We are going to be showing Interlopers. I really hope people do, because I was blown away by this. I really, really enjoyed this. For the money that you had involved and the time it took to make, you've made a solid feature, and you should be damn proud of yourself for that fact. So I hope a lot of people do come in and check it out. But past that, where can people find yourself? Where can people find the movie? And just pimp the project for a quick hot second.
So, me and my filmmaking crew are based in Manchester. I didn't direct this one. We've just completed a new feature that should be going to festivals soon called The Joy of Falling. Awesome. You can hopefully expect to find Interlopers on streaming. We have a website, www.interlopersmovie.com. That will likely have any necessary links and direct you to the places you got to go to find it. But it will be on streaming somewhere, potentially Prime, potentially Tubi. We shall see what we can get. But for all of you who are going to see the film, I hope you enjoy, and I hope it makes you think. And it's a question that I always like to ask, and I think you'll be really good at this one.
Every director, every creator can tell me what's wrong with their movie when they see it up on the big screen. We've mentioned a couple of moments in the movie that you're particularly pleased with, particularly proud of. But when you see the movie up on the big screen with an audience, what moment should people be looking out for? Because you think to yourself, we absolutely smashed it that day. That looks fantastic.
Interesting. So for me, I think the moment I'm proudest of, let's just say one of the parts ends with a bang.
I like that. I like that a lot. Dan, thank you so much for giving us your movie. Thank you for submitting to us. Thank you for letting us see it and now letting us show it up on the big screen. It's going to be an awesome 4 days of film fun festivities, and I hope to see you down there, and I hope that everybody just takes to the movie and then comes to you at the bar or in the foyer and tells you how good this film is and what they thought of it. That's what it's all about, really.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure to be selected. And yeah, I should hopefully be there for the entire duration of the festival, most likely at the bar. So yes, if you catch the film, don't hesitate to drop by and say hi.
I would like to say the Lord's Prayer of Sacrament in remembrance of his flesh and blood that he sacrificed for us. O God, the eternal Father, we ask thee in the name of thy Son, the Lord Jesus Christ, to bless and sanctify this bread to the souls of all those who partake of it, that they may eat in remembrance of the body of thy Son, Jesus Christ, and witness unto him, O God, the eternal Father, that they be willing to take upon him the name of thy Son, and always remember him, and keep his commandments that he has given them, that they may always have his Spirit to be with them. Amen.
Well, we'll get into that. We are here with another interview. This time we're talking to Jamie Langlands, the director of The Cellar, a movie that we are showing on Friday the 28th on Screen 1 at 1 p.m. And a movie that I genuinely think you guys should 100% be checking out. So that's why I reached out to Jamie. I said, let's get an interview done and let's promote this movie a little bit more, because obviously we have 7 or 8 screens, a lot of different things to choose from. I'm here to help you choose what films you should be watching. Jamie, how are you today? You good?
Good. Yeah, I'm very well, thanks. Good to
awesome.
Chatting with you.
Awesome. So the first thing I want to do, this is the first time you and I have sat down and chopped it up or anything like that. This could also be the first time that some of our viewers, listeners, anything like that might be getting to know you, getting to see you. So the first thing I like to ask is, what got you into the film industry and why would you do such a silly thing?
It's a good question. Why would I do a silly thing? And I'm still asking myself that question to this day. So for me, it kind of happened when I think I was about 16 or 17. I mean, well, going back further than that, actually, when I was about 5 or 6, I used to make stop motion films with my dad, who would teach me how to make stop motion films with like little Playmobil figures and things like that. But yeah, then I was when I got to about 16, 17, I just got involved in being part of like a show performance on the kind of actor side of things. I joined the show. It wasn't something I was sort of actively trying to get into. It was just sort of part of a course. We were given like a task to put on this little show in front of like an audience. It was a good feeling being on stage, making people laugh, making people feel things. So I thought, maybe I should give acting a go. So then I just went to drama school, and just it went from there. I got involved in independent films as an actor, and then it got to a point where, like, obviously you meet a whole load of people, and film sales, especially like indie films when it's more sort of close. I got I met a load of friends, and it got to the point where I was like, maybe I can make my own film. Maybe I can do something that's gonna kind of challenge me a little further. I mean, I kind of have the resources and in terms of knowing a lot of crew and actors. So I thought, I could totally do this. So and then
And then the come up as you were making your way, obviously a bit of acting first. Your dad's kind of got you into it with the stop motion and anything like that. But was there any one film or any one project that you saw along the way that really kind of like you saw and it ingrained itself on you and you thought, I want to do that, whether it's acting or directing, like that's what I want to do with my life?
I don't think there was like one specific thing. There's probably like a multitude of many things like over the years that sort of led me down this sort of path. So it was just a whole bunch of different filmmakers and things I'd seen that sort of like influenced me, maybe even if it was just subconsciously. It was just sort of like a gradual thing and taking inspiration from many people. So I don't think I can give like one specific film or... No,
that's totally fine. Everybody finds their own way into the industry, and that's why I asked the question. I like to sort of tickle that itch and figure out where we're all coming from. But a quick look on your IMDB, you talk about being an actor, and there's about over 100 credits on there, big roles, small roles. I mean, there are no small roles, but you've got over 100 credits on there, and now you've made your way into directing your first feature. What was it? I know you say you had the resources, you had the friends, the sort of the know-how, but what was it that really said, right, I'm going to give this a crack, the directing side?
It was, and I think a lot of actors would feel the same. It was sort of like just getting to that point when you're just sitting around waiting for something to happen, or waiting for someone to call you to offer you a job. So it was kind of about taking, sort of making my own opportunity, taking the power into my own hands, rather than just sort of waiting for something to come up, for someone to give me a chance. I just wanted to do something creative. So I just thought, let's take some power into my own hands. Let's give this a shot. Let's maybe put my money where my mouth is, sort of thing. Like I said, there's a lot of people I know that are like local filmmakers, where I live, that I've sort of learned from, and I know I could call on them, and I know they'd be reliable and do a decent job. So like I said, I kind of had all the resources I needed. It was just about, taking a leap of faith and doing it, really.
So, The Cellar, where... It's a strange question to ask, I guess, but where did the initial idea, the original story, the kernel or the seed, where did The Cellar come from? Because it's a dark, psychological thriller. Where did this come from? What was the initial itch that you just had to scratch with this movie?
I was talking about this to someone the other day, actually. And I was kind of talking about where I got some of the props from. And they sort of said, well, maybe that's where the initial idea came from. And this was going back, about 10 years. I was in Venice. And Venice is like, at night, is a really scary place if you go away from the touristy areas. And there's all these sort of dark alleyways and all these canals and bridges. And it's a pretty scary place to be when you're just sort of on your own through all this sort of maze of tunnels, and they have these, obviously, little shops where they've got all these Venetian masks in the windows, and so you're going down these tunnels and you're seeing these creepy looking masks in the windows. And yeah, I think that just kind of stuck with me a little bit, because obviously one of the masks in the cellar was a Venetian mask, so I bought it from Venice. So I think the seed came from there. And then when I was working on a little concept film as an actor, and it was in one of the locations, and I thought, my God, this is such a cool, creepy location. And yeah, it gave me some inspiration just being in one of the locations. And then yeah, I just wrote a little short film based around this sort of location, and then it just sort of grew, just kept growing. So yeah, so I think really it kind of, the seed sort of came from about 10 years ago when I was in Venice.
This question is going to sound hopefully not too weird. I am a big fan of point and click adventure games, the 11th hour, the 11th hour and the Seventh Guest and all that. Some of my favorite games of all time. I know they're ancient now, but when you're actually in the cellar sections of this movie, and then even when you come up into the house kind of thing, it really reminded me of those kinds of games. Were they at all any kind of inspiration for you in these?
Yeah, they were 100%. It was mainly Resident Evil.
Wow. Oh, yeah.
I mean, the first Resident Evil game, I absolutely loved playing that game. And it scared the hell out of me playing that. So yeah, I wanted it to be a bit like a computer game, as in where you kind of feel like you are the character, and you're sort of like with the character, you're kind of taking the same sort of journey they're taking, and you don't really know anything beyond what the main character kind of knows.
Yeah.
So yeah, Resident Evil was a big inspiration for this film, 100%.
Yeah, you really got that across with the style and the tone, especially when you're down in the below sections and all that. It's kind of, so how do you approach trying to apply that aesthetic when you're making a feature film like this?
Well, I mean, partly it's in the writing, I'd say. And again, it's sort of like, I mean, I did do a storyboard for this, although I can't really draw. So I kind of knew in my head the shots I kind of wanted. But yeah, it's a kind of mixture of the writing, the shot choices, and obviously like the location as well. As well. And yeah, it just sort of came together, and the more we kind of shot, the more it sort of went down that route as well. And then yeah, we just stuck with that idea of making it a bit like a game in a sense.
It totally works as well. It would work as an escape room as well. I kind of feel like that would be a good little vibe you could go down as well.
Well, I actually work in escape rooms as well, so.
Oh, fantastic! That's even better. Then you've got everything you need then.
Maybe subconsciously that played a part as well. Who knows?
So some of my favorite moments in the cellar. I'm not going to dive into spoilers or anything like that, obviously, because we want people to check out the movie. But some of my favorite moments in this movie. I'm a dialogue kind of guy, so when you kind of cut to those moments with the group around the room, and you're getting little bits of different characters' stories, you're really honing in on those moments. How much were you aware of situations like that? Had you had much experience in those kind of things when writing this? And how do you apply that to this movie?
Well, I've done a lot of research. So I just went on like YouTube and, had a look at real life AA meetings. And a lot of it was taken from real people's stories that they were talking about. I'd take what stuff certain people have been through, and put that into that scene. So yeah, a lot of the characters in there were sort of based on real people as well. I mean, there was one of the actors in that meeting is an alcoholic as well. So a lot of I'd consult with him a lot of the time on certain things that are said in like AA meetings. He gave me, certain things that wouldn't usually be said. He kind of wrote some of it as well. He kind of wrote parts of his little sort of monologue. I had enough there to, again, I had one of the actors that was an alcoholic, so you can't get more perfect than that, really, for that sort of thing.
No, I really like that, because it was sort of like so many times I often get the impression, and definitely not with this film, but some films that I've watched, when you have scenarios like that, it's like I don't think they really knew that situation, and you can tell by the writing, and it wasn't delivered properly. But that's why in your film, The Cellar, when they are sitting around the room, I really liked those moments, because they actually felt really real and quite, a lot of pathos getting put to it. So awesome. I wondered on that, but that's great to hear that you had outside help as well with somebody that had actually gone through it. That's awesome. And and of course, when you have moments like that, you have stories like that, casting's key. And Megan Adara, who plays Abigail, I'm just going to say right now, she is an absolute revelation to me. Not somebody that I've seen in any other real projects that I've seen her in. I probably have, but not really put much to it. How did Megan come to this film? Because she seems like a perfect cast choice. How did you get her on board, and how did you work with her to get this character?
Well, I've worked with her before, and as an actor, so I already kind of knew what she could bring. I knew what she could do, really. I know, she can get to an emotional point very quickly, which is great for, indie films, because or any film, because you're always up against the clock. So you need people to kind of get into it like straight away, and like really kind of come out of the box, because obviously a lot of the time we don't have time to do like 10, 11, 12 takes. So I knew she could get to an emotional point quickly, which was obviously great for this film. And she's quite vulnerable as a person. But she's also very tough. And she's been through a lot in her life as well. So I knew she could bring in what she's sort of gone through in her past to the role. She was, for me, the number one choice. I didn't really have anyone else in mind. So I'm glad she accepted the role, because if she didn't, then I didn't know. Well, I wouldn't have known where to turn to.
That's good, though, that you had someone like that in mind, and you kind of knew where you were going to go with it. And was that the same kind of thing with the character of Gabriel, like Neil James? He quietly charismatic, eerily scary at times. So was he always in the books for this role as well?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a good thing when you work in so many indie films.
You
meet so many actors, and then you can just think of exactly who you want as the role, and then you can ask them, and hopefully they say yes. I just randomly messaged Neil one day and said, I'm making this film. I need someone to play like a cult leader, and I instantly thought of you. He accepted the roles. Yeah, it worked out well.
I'm glad you did it all, because he has this he is very charismatic in the role, but also you're sitting there thinking, I don't know what this guy's going to do in any moment, and I really liked them in the but does that extend to when you have the shot in mind, you have the take that you want? Was there any room for the two of them to sort of do their own little thing, try something out? And is there any particular scene you can think of in the movie where that's the take you used?
Yeah, Neil ad-libbed quite a bit in the church scene.
Awesome.
And a lot of that went into the film. That worked out well. I kind of gave him, he was in this position of power. So it's you are in a position of power. If you don't want to say a certain line, you don't say it. You say whatever the hell you want to say. It's completely up to you. So let's just give Neil all the power because he's in that position. And again, it's like, just start when you're ready. If you want to take 5 minutes, because that day, luckily, we had a lot of time. So we had a lot of time to play around with stuff. But yeah, it's like you're in the power position here. So you just do whatever you want to do. It was tiny little things with Megan. It was more sort of technical stuff, getting that right. I mean, I think like a lot of actors, they just want to keep doing take after take, you know, until they're happy. So there's times when, like, you know what, we got it, we've got to move on now. The performance was great, don't worry, it looked great. You don't have to worry about anything. So we had to, she's like a bit of a perfectionist, so she would have kept going and going and going until she was 100% happy.
And when you have a collaborative team like this, where everybody's kind of working together in the same direction, this again, I mentioned again, is your first feature film, and I mention it again because I'm pretty damn impressed by it. Was there anything in terms of like time-wise, budget-wise, any sort of restrictions that you may have had that you had to creatively find a workaround for that ended up benefiting the project and sort of making it that little bit better in your eyes? Something you maybe had to compromise on, but actually it worked out a lot better?
I mean, a lot of compromise was done with locations, because although I kind of got the locations I wanted, you know, until you're actually kind of in there, you don't know how things are going to really play out. You can take inspiration from one little thing, you know, on the spur of the moment. So, I mean, there wasn't too many, obviously budget is always going to be a big issue with like independent film. But there was surprisingly not too many issues. I mean, there was one thing that I wanted to do, which we couldn't do, which was there was this dumb waiter. So I don't know what if you know what a dumb waiter is, but
it's the food to the kitchen to the eye.
So they had that, which I really wanted to use, but I wanted like a shot, like just looking down. This aft, and then Megan to sort of look up, and then one of the people in the mask to sort of look down at her and get this like reverse shot of her looking up, the person in the mask looking down. But annoyingly, we couldn't actually take the tray out of the dumb waiter. It was sort of like kind of stuck in there, so we couldn't really take it out. So that was the only thing that I really sort of wanted in there, which you had to sort of compromise a little bit. But yeah, other than that, there wasn't too many compromises I can think of, which was kind of lucky, I suppose, in a way.
If you could show someone any one scene of this movie, they only get to see one scene, to help them understand what this movie is, obviously without any spoilers, what scene are you most proud of that you could put forward and like, this is the movie we've made, to kind of get them hooked?
Okay, it would probably be the scene when it's not Megan's character, it's one of the other girls' characters is in the cell, and then the hatch opens, and then the guy in the mask looks in. So it'd probably be that, because I mean, it doesn't really explain the movie too much. But
just hooks you in.
Yeah, I think visually and just that little bit would sort of hook someone, hopefully.
Absolutely. And the whole movie as a full project, if you could show it to any director that you admire, respect, to get feedback from, can be absolutely anyone. Living or dead, independent, big budget, whatever. It could be absolutely anyone that inspires you. who would you show this movie to for a little bit of feedback?
I'd probably show it to Ari Aster.
Nice.
I mean, he's obviously quite big in the horror genre at the minute. And some of the films he makes, I think, are creepy as hell and like really good. So yeah, I'd show it to him to get some feedback, definitely.
Awesome. And now, as we say, you've done plenty of projects as an actor. This is you now getting into the filmmaking game as a director. What gives you personally the most gratification out of the two disciplines?
I mean, it would be directing, just because you're overseeing like everything.
Yeah.
You know, you're kind of you're always there, so you've got a much more, you know, you've got a bigger impact on the film, really. I mean, acting is great, obviously, you know, but I mean, usually you're not in every day, unless you're in every single scene. You're obviously not going to be on set every day. I mean, usually for me, it's just coming in for a day or two on a job with acting, and then it's sort of like you don't really think about it anymore. Once you time with directing, you're constantly thinking about it, like all the time, like constantly. Even in your sleep, you're thinking about it. So, yeah, it sort of consumes you, and it sort of becomes you. And you can, as much as you want to forget about it, like show off, you just can't.
So this hasn't destroyed your love of it, and it just makes you want to go further and further and make more movies. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's probably made me maybe a little bit more crazy. Yeah, it's definitely made me want to make more films. Yeah.
Excellent. So we're going to start wrapping this up now, but we are showing The Cellar on Friday the 28th on Screen 1 at 1 p.m. But past that, what is happening with The Cellar? More festivals? Are we looking at getting it out there to the big bad world? What can we expect from The Cellar? Where can we see it?
Well, it's going to the European film market next month. I mean, so hopefully by the time Romford Horror comes around, there will be some more news in terms of
excellent
some kind of a release. We'll see. I don't know. Other than that, yeah, there's more festivals lined up. I mean, it's probably going to be shown at festivals maybe up until the summer.
Awesome. And what's next for Jamie? Obviously, you'll be planning your next steps past this, or is it all just The Cellar right now? But what can we expect going forward with you?
Well, I'm making a feature film at the moment.
Awesome.
So yeah, it's called The R.I.P. Band. It's a slasher horror film.
Oh, yes.
It's a bit of thriller, a bit of mystery in there. We've got 5 more days left to shoot, so hopefully, I'm hoping it'll be wrapped around sort of April sort of time. It's a bigger budget, it's a lot more actors, a lot more locations, so it's a bigger project, more ambitious. So yeah, I mean, so far, so good, but hopefully...
That's what I love to hear. Bigger budget, more ambitious. Keep going. You've got to keep leveling up, and I can't wait to see. I can't wait to see what you do next. To be perfectly honest, because I thoroughly enjoyed The Cellar. As I say, it kind of tickled my psychological horror bone, but also it tickled a little bit of that, like the games that I mentioned back in the day, which I wasn't expecting. I really wasn't expecting, but you caught that vibe so beautifully in this movie, like both with your cinematography, score, location, everything. So if you could give any one person coming into the industry that wants to make their first feature film, or maybe they're jumping off from the shorts to the features, or as you did, acting to the features, directing your own feature, sorry, what bit of advice would you give that one person, and then we'll round out there?
I mean, if they're like me, there's going to be some self-doubt in there. So I'd say just pick up a camera and shoot something, you know.
Yeah.
See what you can make, see what you can do, see where it takes you, take a bit of a leap of faith. I mean, sure, there's a lot of planning, a lot of preparing involved, but as much as you plan for something, it's not going to go 100% right. So yeah, I mean, don't over plan things, and yeah, just take a bit of a leap of faith and just do it. You don't know until you try what you can do, and then you just keep growing from there and keep carrying on.
Awesome. Jamie, thank you so much for jumping on and doing this for me today, and can't wait to see you down at the festival. I can't wait for people to see the movie. I think everybody, our audience is definitely going to vibe on this film, and I can't wait for everyone to catch it. But right now, thank you so much for doing this.
No worries, man. And yeah, I'll see you at Romford.